everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is just going to be a quick video from a subscriber. I believe it was Billa Great. I had made a video about a little 9.9 Suzuki, and I had to repair the recoil starter, the manual recoil starter on it. And I had a question from the subscriber wanting to know how to get the rod or the shaft out of one of these Suzuki recoil starts. It's the older blue Suzukis, and I know they use them on the 9915. I'm not sure if they used them on the smaller ones, but this is the recoil starter in question. And it's pretty straightforward. On the top, you're going to see a nut and a bolt. I'm going to get around here where I can make sure I'm getting this. Okay, you're going to see that there's a nut right here, and then there's this bolt. Well, that's what holds this pin in. And you loosen the nut, back out the bolt, and that will allow this pin to come out of there, which is indented, and I'll show you that in a minute. But that's basically what kind of holds everything together. And you can see this little loop of steel here goes over this riser post here on the recoil starter. So again, just loosen that nut, back out on this bolt. That'll allow the pin to come out of there, and then that will allow everything to come apart. This pin is what basically makes the gear, the sprocket that engages with the flywheel, that makes that come up when you pull it like so. So we got to get that pin out of there, and that's, like I said, just loosen this nut, and then it's really straightforward. You just loosen that nut there, a couple turns. Then you back out on the bolt a couple turns. You don't need to take it all the way out. Just back it out a couple turns. And once you get that out of there, you may have to take a punch, something along that line's there. But whatever punch you use, make sure it has a fairly flat tip. Because if this thing's really salty and you really got to whack this pin to get it out, you don't want that to mushroom. The pin to mushroom on the end, so don't use a center punch, use a flat tipped punch. Get you a little block of wood or whatever, and then once that's out of there, it should just basically tap right out. There you go. Now keep in mind, this one's been apart. If yours has been used in salt water and stuff, it probably won't come apart that easy, and you can't put any heat to it because this top part here is nylon or plastic or something like that. So if it's really salty, soak it in a lubricant, plunge the whole thing in some 50-50 mixture of acetone, transmission fluid, ATF fluid would be fine. Let it sit in there for a couple days and then go at it. But once you get the pin out, you just pull that off. That'll come off as a unit. Then you'll have a sleeve here. Take that sleeve off. There's going to be a washer there, and then there's a little nylon bushing. I believe that can stay. Now remember, the spring is in this cup here, and it's hooked to both this shaft and inside the cup. So this is where the safety glasses come into play. And make sure you unload the spring. If it's got tension on it, let it just rotate around until there's nothing on the spring. And you can see the spring kind of in there, and I can see this one's hooking a little bit. So, which I don't want that to do. Like I said, you want to unload the spring, and I'm going to probably have to reach in there with a screwdriver or something to keep the spring in the cup. Now if your spring's broke, that bushing's coming off, if your spring's broke, it's not going to matter. But this spring is not broke. There. So that will allow the whole shaft to come out. There's the spring inside the cup. You can see there's a catch right there on this shaft, right on top of the sheave where the line gets coiled, where the pull line actually gets coiled. There's a little catch right there that catches that spring hook right there. That's really all there is to getting it apart. There's also a bushing here on the bottom. And then to put it back together, you know, you've got to get your spring in there. The ones that come from the factory will be pre-coiled. They'll fit in there, and they'll have generally some kind of holding device that once you put it in, you pry that holding device off of it and let it loose inside the cup. And so just so you can see what that spring, I want to make sure you can see that in there. That's what the spring looks like inside the cup. You can see it engages right there in that little triangle part where it comes to a point. That's where it engages the cup. And then you can see the hook there where it engages the actual shaft and cup that holds the recoil line that pulls through that opening there. So that's what the spring looks like inside there. And when you go to put it back together, get you a little never seize, anti-seize, or your particular favorite lubricant. Put that on the shaft, give it a good coat of that. Then you're going to just slide it up in there. It'll catch that catch automatically generally. You just keep turning until it seats down in there. There it went. It just went in there, and that'll automatically catch the spring there. That's how it turns that way. There it goes. So now it's got spring tension on it. All right, holding everything. Put the other bush in. Put your washer. Again, put a little more lubrication anti-seize on that. Now you've got this sleeve that's got to go on there. Kind of line up the hole there. You can use a tapered punch again to kind of line up that hole. Then you're going to put your sprocket on there, and remember this loop on the sprocket goes on this post riser right here. There you go. Now you just kind of turn the mechanism until you see the hole. Here's this pin that you're going to put in, and I wanted to show you that indent. Hopefully you can see it. There's an indent right there. So when you tighten down on that bolt, that's what's going to hold the pin in, that little indent there. And then you'll lock it in place with the retaining nut. So once you got everything lined up, you just put your pin in right into the middle. Take your wrench, tighten up the little retaining nut, or get it just seated, and then the bolt will tighten it on up, and then you can give it an extra half-inch turn or so. And that's 10 millimeters there. Now, once I got that snugged down, or just lightly seated, tighten the bolt to hold the pin in. There it goes. It just stopped. Now give the retaining nut a little bit, and there it is. And that's going to rise up and catch the underneath of the flywheel. So that's it. That's all there is to taking these apart. Like I said, if it's been used in salt water, the nut on here and the bolt might be fairly hard to get apart. Like I said, a good soaking for a few days might help that. But the ticket is to getting the nut loose, the bolt backed out, and the pin out. Once you get that, that'll all come off. And then I have seen on this type of recoil starter that sleeve or even the shaft itself will be so salty and so corroded in there that they're hard to get apart. But once you get the bolt and the nut backed out and the pin out, you get this part off. And then, other than the bushings themselves, the rest of it's metal. And you can heat that. So the ticket seems to be getting the bolt backed out and the nut loosened, and then the pin out. It's just amazing what salt can do. I have had these that I couldn't get apart. So I hope you have good luck with yours. That's the process to get it apart. If you get all this apart and get this top piece off and you find that that shaft still won't come out, then it's corroded. Not saying you can't get it apart. I'm saying there is nothing else retaining it. There's not an E-clip or a C-clip or anything. There's not any kind of bolt or anything in the bottom. Once you get the gear off the top, the pin out and the gear off, it should come apart. Keep in mind this is just cast aluminum, so you can heat it, but when you're banging on it, be careful because it'll break. And so I hope that helps you out. I also wanted to make a quick mention of the mystery motor that I had. I have had a couple correct guesses on what it is and so forth, and I'm not ready to make a video of it yet because I still got a lot of work to do on it. But as soon as I get it all done up, cleaned up, and I'm going to have to pull the power head on it to fix the pan and so forth. But once I get all that done, I'll make a video of it and show you what it is. And there was a couple correct guesses on what kind of motor it was and so forth. So I haven't forgot about it. I just got to get to it and get it all squared away. So thanks for watching.